Welcome back to my channel, Famous and Fabulous. When Bob Crane went from being the favourite star of the TV show Hogan's Heroes to being killed in a really bad way, fans were super shocked. It was really awful, and everyone was waiting for the police to say they caught who did it. But guess what? More bad news came instead, because when the police showed up, they couldn't find enough clues to figure out who killed him. For many years, whenever they thought they found the killer, it turned out to be the wrong person. Now, many years later, new clues showed up, and it might tell us who killed Bob Crane. But I'm warning you, the truth is really sad. Let me go back to an easier time. Bob Crane was born, Robert Edward Crane, on July 13th, 1928. He grew up in Stamford with his older brother and their parents. The youngest Crane loved music and wasn't shy about showing it. By the time he was 11, Crane took some sticks and became crazy about making drums. Halata said, "I knew I wanted to be an entertainer the second I started playing drums in grade school." This wasn't just a quick thing either, because by junior high, he was putting together local drum and bugle parades with friends from his neighborhood. Moving to high school, Crane jumped into every music group possible. He wasn't just in the school's orchestra, he also joined the marching band and jazz band too. Crane was really good and soon became a member of the Connecticut Symphony Orchestra while he was still in high school. After high school, he joined the Connecticut Army National Guard. The next year, he married his girlfriend from high school, Anne Tercian. After getting married, Crane left the National Guard after 2 years. Now he was married and needed money, so he turned to the one thing he was really good at, which had always helped him: drums. He said about how things were back then. "I played with lots of bands in Connecticut and New York. I knew I didn't want to play drums in a band forever. But the drums paid the bills while I looked for a radio job." Crane finally got a job on the radio as a DJ for a Connecticut station, but he started doing more than just playing music. It turned out Crane had another hidden talent. He was really good at talking to people. He was funny and knew a lot about tons of stuff. This extra talent helped him keep his job for the next 6 years. And if you've been on the radio that long, you know you must have lots of fans. Having so many fans made Crane something that other radio stations wanted. They tried really hard to get him to work for them instead. Crane himself only wanted to work in one of 2 places, and he told everyone about it. "I got asked to work in bigger cities, but I only wanted to go to either New York or Los Angeles." So, when Los Angeles finally asked him, he said yes right away and took the job. Even thought this was a new city and a new job, he still needed his drums. He did his DJ thing and made it more fun by playing drums along with the music. Crane played the drums live from Monday through Saturday for 4 hours every single day. He did this while talking to guests, which listeners started calling fun and crazy at the same time. The show was big enough to have really famous guests like Marilyn Monroe, Frank Sinatra, and Bob Hope. His show quickly became the top morning show for grown-up listeners, and he became the king of Los Angeles radio. It's clear that Crane's radio show was really exciting, but even though he liked it, he wanted to do more with his life. "I loved doing the show, but I always dreamed of being an actor. I don't think acting school was for me. The only way to learn was to just do it." And this was the start of something that would make him famous, but also controversial. Crane was a really hard worker and spent time perfecting whatever he did. So even though he did the radio show every day, he also started working with small theatres to get better at acting. Money wasn't a problem, so he could pay for acting lessons, and he sure used them. Soon, like with everything Crane tried, he got really good at acting and got a part in the movie Return to Peyton Place. This helped him get more acting jobs. He did some guest hosting for Johnny Carson on the daytime game show Who Do You Trust? He tried acting on The Twilight Zone even though they said they wouldn't put his name in the credits. But that was a small price to pay for what came next. Crane got parts in shows called Channing, Alfred Hitchcock Presents, and General Electric Theatre. Remember, he was doing all this extra work while still doing his radio show. Luckily for him, one of his big-name guests on the show was Carl Reiner. When Reiner came on, Crane asked him to help him get on the Dick Van Dyke Show. Crane hoped to get a part on that popular show, but it turned out to be even better for him. He got a part on the Dick Van Dyke Show, and then Donna Reed noticed him. She had her own show on ABC. Reed asked Crane to be on her show, but he did so well that after that episode, Crane's character, Dr. David Kelsey, stayed on the show and he became a regular on the show. It's crazy that Crane still worked full-time on his radio show while doing the Donna Reed show. He did both until December 1964 when he left. The next year, it looked like his radio show would take up even more of his time. But then came Hogan's Heroes, the sitcom that would make Crane really famous in Hollywood. Hogan's Heroes was a silly show on CBS set in a World War II prisoner camp. It was about soldiers sneaking around and spying on the German guards, while their leader, Colonel Robert Hogan, kept them safe. Crane got the best part to play, Colonel Robert Hogan. The show became really popular really fast. Everyone wanted to watch it, and it was in the top 10 in its first year. Crane said he had to quit his radio show to focus on playing Colonel Robert Hogan, which made sense. It would be too hard to do both. And nobody was surprised by his choice either. Crane had always said that acting was what he really loved. He said about this change, "I actually made less money when I switched from being a radio DJ to acting full-time, but that's what I wanted to do." And you could tell by how much he cared about playing his character. Ask anyone who was alive back then, and they would say that in the 1960s, Bob Crane was a huge star. He was charming and one of the brightest TV stars of that time. The show ran for 6 years on CBS, and Crane was picked to maybe win a big award called an Emmy in 1966 and 1967. As their show was ending, Crane and his friends from the show made a movie called The Wicked Dreams of Paula Schultz. It took place in Berlin during the Cold War. Crane also started doing other things, like acting with Abby Dalton in a dinner theatre play called Cactus Flower. When Hogan's Heroes finally ended in 1971, Crane was in 2 Disney movies. He played the main character in Superdad and a smaller part in Gus. Back to theatre work, Crane bought the rights to a funny play called Beginner's Luck. He travelled around doing this play at the Showboat Dinner Theatre in St. Petersburg, Florida, and other dinner theatres around the country. While doing theatre, Crane was on a bunch of TV shows like Policewoman, Gibbsville, Quincy, M.E., and The Love Boat. Later had tried his own TV show called The Bob Crane Show on NBC, but it was cancelled after just 14 episodes. But when nobody was watching, people didn't think Crane was such a good guy. His real life had lots of secrets and messy stuff. He divorced Anne, his wife of 21 years and mother of his 3 kids, so he could marry Patricia Olson. She was an actress in Hogan's Heroes, who used the fake name Secreti Valdis. But she turned out Toby, just one of several women Crane was dating on the set before marrying her. He had already been dating Hogan's co-star Cynthia Lynn, the actress who played Helga. His thing with Lynn happened while he was still married to Anne. When Lynn left the show and was replaced by Olson, he started dating her instead. Then he married Olson on the Hogan's Heroes set later that year. His co-star Richard Dawson was the best man at the wedding, but there was even more weird stuff about Crane that his co-workers didn't like. People found out that Crane would secretly film and take pictures of himself having sex. This wasn't just talk. There were stories of him showing the crew dirty pictures of himself with different girlfriends. Another weird thing was that Crane had a constant buddy who did this with him, John Henry Carpenter. Crane and Carpenter met after a friend introduced them during Hogan's Heroes. Carpenter was a sales manager for Sony Electronics. He helped famous people with their video stuff. The two became friends and went to bars and clubs together. Crane was super famous and lots of women wanted to date him because of it. He would tell women that Carpenter was his manager. The two would then film their sexual stuff together. Later, Carpenter became a sales manager at a company called Akai. He planned his business, trips to match up with Crane's acting, tours so they could keep filming their stuff together. Crane's son Scotty, who later wrote a book about his dad, said that all the women knew about the filming and said it was okay. But some women said they didn't know they had been filmed until someone told them. But even though this was happening, Crane's job was getting worse because of all this messy stuff. Even if some of it was just rumors, word got out and even the big companies knew about it. The people at Walt Disney Productions didn't like what they heard about Crane. They said people were talking about it, and it was even in magazines like the National Enquirer. In early 1978, Crane made a travel video in Hawaii and did something on a Canadian cooking show called Celebrity Cooks. While doing this, people said Crane seemed unhappy and made really bad jokes about death and sex. But the people who made the show said this didn't happen. They said they would have stopped filming if anything bad like that had happened. Whether this was true or not, the fact was that as Crane got close to turning 50, he started saying he wanted to make some big changes. He told his son he was going to divorce Olson and stop being friends with Carpenter. According to people who knew him, Crane wanted to leave the bad stuff behind and start fresh. But all his plans got ruined because something didn't want a new Crane to happen. 2 weeks before his birthday, Crane was found dead. Crane was discovered beaten to death in his apartment. He was living in the Winfield Place apartments in Scottsdale. He was there to do a play called Beginner's Luck at the Windmill Dinner Theatre. And on the afternoon of June 29th, Hisco star Victoria Ann Berry went to his apartment after he missed a lunch date and found his dead body. He had been hit really hard with something that was never found. The police thought it might be a camera tripod. An electrical cord had been wrapped around his neck, which was a really awful and violent way toady. It totally confused everyone in Hollywood. When the police started investigating, Scottsdale police found videos of Crane having sex with different women. Carpenter kept showing up in these videos. Lucky for the investigators, Carpenter had flown to Phoenix on June 25th to spend a few days with Crane. They took his rental car and searched it. They found blood smears that matched Crane's blood type. Nobody else with that blood type was supposed to be in the car, including Carpenter. This is where the investigation really messed up. The murder happened in 1978, and Scottsdale police didn't have a special murder team back then, so they couldn't handle this really big murder case. The apartment didn't have many clues. Nobody broke in, nothing was stolen, and DNA testing wasn't even a thing yet. So the Maricopa County District Attorney said they wouldn't charge anyone. A week after, Crane's funeral was held at St. Paul the Apostle Catholic Church in Westwood, Los Angeles. Over 200 family members and friends came, including Hogan producer Edward Feldman, and even co-stars Robert Clary and Larry Hovis. This showed that even though Crane had done some bad stuff, people still liked him and he didn't deserve to die like that, especially when he was about to change his life around. Crane was buried in Oakwood Memorial Park Cemetery in Chatsworth, California. It looked like the person who killed Crane had gotten away with it. But 12 years later, Scottsdale police investigator Barry Vassell and Maricopa County Attorney's Office investigator Jim Raines decided to look at all the evidence again. They asked the county attorney to look at the case one more time. Unfortunately, DNA testing on the blood found in Carpenter's rental car still didn't tell them much. But when they looked at everything again, they found something new. It was a photograph of inside the car that seemed to show a piece of brain tissue. The actual tissue samples they found in the car had been lost. But an Arizona judge said the new evidence could be used. So in June of that same year, Carpenter was arrested and charged with killing Crane. 4 years later in court, Carpenter said he didn't do it. He said that he and Crane got along great. His lawyer even had people from the restaurant come say that Crane and Carpenter ate dinner together the night before the murder. But the other side said this wasn't true. They had Scotty Crane's son tell the court that Crane said he wanted to stop being friends with Carpenter just weeks before Headied. According to Scotty, his dad thought Carpenter was getting annoying and being a jerk. Scotty said his dad Evan called Carpenter the night before to end their friendship. But this wasn't enough for the judge to say Carpenter did it. Plus, his lawyer pointed out that the police had done a really bad job keeping track of the evidence. They said nobody even found the weapon or knew what it was. The prosecution just guessed it was a camera tripod because it sounded good and fit with what Carpenter did for work. To help their case even more, they said that maybe Crane had sex with so many women and filmed it that one of them might have wanted to kill him. Or maybe one of their husbands or boyfriends was so mad about it that they did it. They gave an example of an actor who said he would get back at Crane after they got in a really bad fight in Texas a few months before. To make a long story short, Carpenter was found not guilty and let go. He said he didn't do it the whole time. When he died in 1998, Scotty and Maricopa County District Attorney Rick Romley still thought Carpenter did it. Crane's other son, Robert David, sort of thought his dad's wife, Olson, might have done it or helped plan it. Hef figured there was a really good reason. Nobody got Crane's money except one person. In his will, Crane gave all his stuff to Olson and left out his kids and their mother. Robert David said his dad and Olson had already split up and were just weeks away from finishing their divorce when he died. Even though lots of people suspected Olson, the police said they never thought of her as someone who might have done it. Officially, nobody knows who killed Crane, and the case became one of the most famous unsolved mysteries in entertainment. By 2007, Olson died and they buried her next to Crane at Westwood Village Memorial Park. She had moved him there earlier. The case was still a mystery. 9 years after Olson died, the Maricopa County Attorney's Office let Phoenix television reporter John Hook test the 1978 blood samples from Carpenter's rental car, again using a better DNA technique than what they used in 1990. Hook's investigation found 2 pieces of DNA. One was from a man-o-body nose, and the other was too damaged to tell who it was. So there was an unknown man with Crane the day Headied. This unknown man might have been the killer, but even if he was, there's no way to find out who he is now. especially because Hook's testing used up all the leftover DNA from the rental car and they can't test it anymore.